Welcome to our podcast, Accurately Assessing Children's Language Development. Babies learn quickly that communication can be beneficial using their body, voice, face, hands to convey messages. They learn that if I do this, then that will happen. Communication is having an idea or need and getting this message across to someone else by whatever means possible. Like all children with special needs will want to tell us about their needs and wants. So, Isabelle, why is it important to assess a child's language accurately?
So, to start with, if we overestimate a child's communication and language skills, we might skip some key scaffolding that are needed for the child to make progress. We might also miss how the child is trying to communicate and therefore ignore certain type of messages or respond in a manner that's not appropriate. We need to also assess a child's language accurately to allow us to better understand a child's behavior, particularly those behaviors that are perceived to be more negative. And we need to make a plan for suitable activities to promote communication, interaction, thinking, and play.
So, how should we assess children's language?
But first, we need to carefully observe the child and watch out for their stage of development, and particularly their stage of language development. So there are different communication steps. First, there is a pre-intentional stage. So that's when a baby or a child is making tiny signs of movement and noises to give messages saying, I like this, or I don't like this. For example, they will make gurgling sound or they will smile. But if we don't respond to those tiny movements or noise, the child might stop trying to give messages because nothing is happening. So we need to be very careful to look out for tiny changes in movement or noises. That's particularly important for children who have complex needs. We need to respond to the child, and responding needs to be the same way every time. We need to pause and watch to see how the child reacts to what we did. Do they like it? Do they not like it? So then the next step is the anticipatory stage. The baby or the child knows that something is going to happen. So it's not like they're waiting for it to happen. They know something is going to happen. So it's still important to watch for the sign of movement or noises that the child uses to give the message, I know that's what is going to happen next. They might move their body excitingly. They might look in the direction of an action. And again, it's very important that we respond to those movements and noises so that the child knows that we are communicating back with them. At that stage, it's important to set routine so the child can understand what is happening next. It's important to look out for tiny movement and noises, again, so that we know that the child knows what's going to happen. And it's important to involve everyone in that routine and in those messages so that all those changes in the child communication can be understood by the people around that child. The next step is the intentional stage. So this time, the baby or the child remember previous event and they know they can give a message to someone else. So they might be looking in a particular direction, they might be pointing, so they're indicating what they want, even if it's non-verbally. Again, it's important to watch out for those sometimes very tiny signs, movement, noises that the child is using to give that message. We need to know when a child is able to give us messages, even when they can't talk. So it could be that the child is pointing with their eyes at what they want. We need to know each child's move or sound for a particular message. And it's important to respond once again consistently to the child's message so that they know we are their communication partner. We also need to provide opportunity for the child to communicate. So it's about choosing something the child is interested in and will want to communicate with us about. We mustn't do everything for the child all the time. So if we do, why would they ask for anything? The next step is words and ideas, where the child has learned that it's very important to communicate, and they will have learned that they need to look at another person. They're starting to learn to take turns. They've started to look at facial expression or hand gestures, for example, Makaton sign, and they are using and understanding some sounds that are going to become words. So the child will play and explore the world around them. They learn what things are, they remember this, and they start to link information they hear with things that they see. So again, it's important to help the child to explore their world, to understand what things are and what words mean. Usually a child understands what a word means before they can say it. And we often say a child, and I'm talking about a mainstream child, needs to hear a word at least 50 times before they can use it in context. If the child has additional needs, this can increase to 100 or 200 times before they can use that word. So we need to know when the child is ready to understand and begin to use words. We need to help the child to explore the world around them and to know what things are and what they do. We need to say words a child wants to learn. So what are they interested in? We need to know how the child will say a word and what message the child is trying to tell us. Again, we need to respond consistently to the child to encourage them to understand or say a word again. And we need to provide lots of opportunity for the child to communicate. When they are ready for single words, they can then start to join words and ideas to express themselves.
So what factors could lead us to over-assess or under-assess a child's language?
Well, sometimes it's a bit of wishful thinking. We want to feed back some positive outcome to the parents, so we ignore signs that a child is struggling. Sometimes it's training and experience. Today, it's very challenging for staff to have the time to attend training, so they may not have the knowledge that they need to make careful and accurate assessment. This is particularly the case when you think about the new Development Matters document, where the first age bracket is birth to 3. A child's speech, language, and communication skills are going to change a lot in 3 years. And finally, some children are Gestalt language processor. And that means that they often start with whole memorized phrases before going back to single words. So sometimes practitioner will overestimate a child's language development because a child is suddenly using whole sentences.
So how can we involve parents in assessment?
We all know parents know their child best. So just ask parents, ask them, for example, of how their child is communicating with them. How does a child make a request? How do they respond to instruction? How do they listen? How do they communicate with their parents?
And in summary, what should practitioners remember?
The first point I think that's very important is don't overestimate a child's communication and language skills. If not, you're going to skip some key scaffolding steps that are needed for the child to make progress. And then look out for different communication methods. For example, are the child at the pre-intentional stage or at the anticipatory stage? Don't forget that challenging behavior is communication. So some children will know that if they do something that adults think is negative, they will get a reaction. This is a communication exchange. And then monitor progress to ensure you're continuing to support the child appropriately. Why don't you think about using the CoL tracking sheet? Because that will show you in different areas of language what the child is making progress with and what they are not making progress with. And then share your observation with all those involved with the child, and that includes particularly the parents.
Thank you so much, Isabelle. I'll see you soon at the next podcast.
Thank you, Verity. Goodbye.
Remember to look out for the CoL top tips on social media at Square Mile Families, and everybody else listening. We hope you'll tune in and listen to some more podcasts soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.